Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Take Action Now podcast. I'm excited to bring on a guest today. Today I have on Galen Yoder. He is the owner of Roofex and also a real estate investor. He's a man of faith and he shares a lot of good advice for entrepreneurs on social media. I've just recently started following him, but I wanted to bring him on to get to know him better and hopefully get some value to you as well. So, with that, let's get started. Hey, Galen. Thanks for being on today. How are you?
Hey Kyle, great to be a part of the show today. I'm doing well. I'm blessed. I'm very thankful for all the many blessings that God has given me, and I'm looking forward to getting to know you a little bit better today as well. So thanks for having me on.
Nice. Yeah, awesome. I'd like to get into business and ask you some questions about that. But first, I'd like to get to know you a little bit better. Just yeah, tell the audience a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, my name is Galen Yoder. I'm married to my beautiful wife Mackenzie. We've been married about a little over 3 years now. So that's been an awesome journey. A little bit of my backstory. Originally, I was actually born here in Ohio, up close to the Bell Fountain area. And when I was about 4 years old, my parents ended up moving out to Missouri. We moved out there, lived out there for about between 11 and 12 years, and then ended up moving back to Ohio. And we landed here in Southern Ohio, close to in the small town of Leesburg. We kind of sit right in between Columbus and Cincinnati. And, we've lived here for the last 11 years now. So it's been a fun journey. I've got to experience some pretty cool things, living in, a couple different states. Um, growing up, I always went with my dad to work. He had his own construction business, so I got to learn the hands-on trade of construction, the construction industry, building houses, remodeling, installing roofs, all that good stuff. And now I have the privilege to um, work with my dad and my older brother and run a roofing company called Roofex here in Leesburg, Ohio. So that's my main gig is Roofex and continuing to grow and scale the company. And I also enjoy my wife and I enjoy doing real estate investing as well. So we do some real estate investing on the side and keeps life interesting for us.
Thanks for sharing that. I didn't know you moved to Missouri, when you were younger, so that's interesting, definitely. Uh, question I like to ask people in order to get to know them better is get to know like the people that are important to them. So I'm curious, like who is most important to you in your life?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, first of all, the most important person in my life is God. He's very, someone that I lean on heavily. I'm thankful that he, gave his life for my sins and that I can have a relationship with him. But other than that, most of all is just for me, it's been family. Like I'm very blessed to have a great family, very supportive parents who taught me, good morals, good values, great work ethic. So I'm very blessed with my family. And I know, like, through my life, some of the challenges that I've faced, some of the growth opportunities, we've all gone through some of those hard times, but during those hard times, my family has been the most important support team and encouragement to me in my life.
Awesome. Yeah, that's good to know, and I'm glad you shared about God being first in your life, and that's this podcast is kind of geared towards. So I don't know if you're familiar with the Rise Up Kings. It's a group for Christian men, um, but they have this. It's built on four pillars of it's faith, family, fitness, and finance, and so that's what this podcast is geared towards is to help people uh, grow in each one of those areas. So yeah, I appreciate you for sharing that, and I've enjoyed watching. I haven't followed you for too long on Instagram, but I've enjoyed following along and watching your content and what you put out there. Um,
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, and it's been, life's a fun journey. We Everyone gets one shot at life, and you can make it as fun and as exciting as you want, or you can make it as or you can be focused on the reasons why it's not fun and exciting. And for me, part of the reason that that's kind of led me to sharing a little bit of my journey on social media is just the um you know I just want to share some of the things I learned along my journey. This is my journey, and hopefully there's some lessons that I learned that I can share with other people that hopefully help them overcome some of those things that I might have faced. Because something else that's been really important and very pivotal in my life has been learning from my mentors, people I really look up to, those people who've kind of been where I want to go. That can be so powerful if you can learn from someone who's already been there. So I think that's super cool, and that's kind of what my mission is just to just share things I learn. This is share my journey.
hmm I like that. It feels like you want to help the person that you used to be, right? And that's why you're sharing that content.
Exactly. That's exactly.
Yeah. Well, and it seems like you're really into personal development. Just from what I've seen, you can. I guess I'm curious what things what are some things you do to develop personally and to continue growing.
Yeah, that's a great question. Personal development is something it's been really big in my life over the last, I don't know, 5, 6 years. Um, but if you're not growing, you're dying. That's always kind of been my philosophy. And the more that you learn to know yourself, understand yourself, and get to know yourself better and grow yourself personally, that's really what leads you to creating success in your life. Success is one of those things that you don't just go and get. You don't just get there. You attract it by the person that you become. So for me in my life, to live a successful life, I first to track that kind of success into my life, I have to work on myself, which means working on my mindset, um, thinking in a certain way, staying positive, not getting caught up in the negative, just being in control. If you're not in control of your mindset, you ultimately end up being controlled by the circumstances around you and everything that's going on around you. So if you can grow yourself personally and you can gain that control of your mind and your mindset, it can just help take you to that next level and attract that success and the results that you want to see in your life.
hmm Yeah, I like that. It's kind of like the inside out perspective versus outside in, letting if we let life's circumstances control what we how we react, uh, it can lead to a lot of struggles and being able to like have an inside out perspective is very important.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
Curious, like what are there certain um, courses or certain things that you've done that have helped you in your journey, like business wise or just overall?
Yeah, I mean, I've done quite a few different things. When it comes to business, probably one of the better things that I've or one of the best things that I've ever done to help build, structure our business and help put our business in a place that we can continue to grow and scale is, working with an EOS implementer. I don't know if
Mm,
you've ever heard of the book Traction, but
yes.
that was so I read the book Traction and then went out and hired a implementer to come help us implement it into our company. And we did that about a year and a half or 2 year, probably close to 2 years ago now. And that's been very helpful as far as like building actual business structure. So that was to me that was a very good, when it comes to business. But outside of that, there's also a whole piece, the whole personal development mindset side of it. So I have also worked with some mentors on, or really one main mentor on, building my mindset, helping me gain that, emotional freedom, and building that bulletproof mindset that can help me become it's ultimately helped me become a better leader. It's helped me become, a better husband, and has really made a big difference in my life. So there's kind of two sides of it. You kind of have the business side of it, and then you have the personal side of it. Um, a lot of times, personally for myself, like, sometimes we want to try and really focus on that business side of things first. But what's honestly almost more important is taking care of yourself first and your mindset first, because if you get yourself in the right spot, it starts attracting what you need to continue to elevate your business and grow and scale your business.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's important to first grow ourselves before we try to grow a
Mhm.
business. I think that's important.
One
As far
one of the
as
things that one of the things that ends up that personally seen in my business or in our business is the a lot of times the business owners are they're the business doesn't grow more than the owners do themselves. Like they're usually the things that holds that back more than other people in the company or anything else in the company. Because if you grow yourself, the results will take care of themselves.
yeah, that's a very good point, good advice. I'd like to get into your business. So, has it always been? Uh, you said you grew up working with your dad or for your dad. Has it always been RoofX, or how did that start, or how did that business come to be, or I guess the timeline of it?
Yeah, so back in 2003, when we moved to Missouri, my dad, um, soon after we got there, he kind of went out on his own and started his own general construction company. I'm the youngest of five boys, so he basically had a whole crew with all of us boys. So from 2003 to about 2019, it was basically just him and whichever of us boys were still at home. A couple of them got married and moved off. And then in 2019, it was down to my dad, my older brother, and myself. And at that point in time, we kind of had this, I've always had this vision of like, I want to grow up, build and scale a business that, can, you know, I always kind of picture this machine that just, it just works. It just um, works, even maybe even when I'm not there. So
Mhm.
we ended up actually, my older brother and I ended up becoming partners with dad in 2019. And when we formed that partnership, we formed Yoder Building Solutions LLC. Originally, we started out as just Yoder Construction. Um, so that was in 2019 when we became partners, and then in 2021, my we decided that we want to focus specifically on roofing. Roofing was always our favorite thing, and that's what we specialized in really from 2019 to even 2021, and then 2020 um 21 or 22, I forget. But then we ended up rebranding to RoofX. So we've been rebranded as RoofX for a few years now, and um, that's kind of where we're at today now.
Gotcha. I like it. I like the name. It's a catchy name. Um,
Thank
Curious
you.
through this process, what is maybe the biggest lesson you've learned throughout the process of being running a business and just I guess I'm sure there's certain challenges that have come up. So just curious on
Yeah,
that.
there's definitely. I mean, there's been a lot. I could probably go on for a few hours when we start talking about that stuff. But I'd say one of the biggest things that I've learned, for sure over the last 2 years is just learning how to work with people. Like, um, from 2000, in the early years of doing business, it was more about being, great at roofing, great at installing a roof, because I used to go out and I was the one, installing shingles, installing metal, all that good stuff. Once you switch over to trying to build a business, it's all about building people. So for me, learning to be a good leader to people, learning how to effectively communicate expectations, how to set them up for how do I set them up to win and put them in a position that they can succeed and that they can, crush it at their role. Some of the things that I've learned the hard way and still learn every day is, there was times where we hired people and we probably didn't set them up for success and didn't have, their roles laid out, or maybe put them in a position where it just didn't set them up for success. So that's probably been one of the biggest lessons, is just learning how to effectively lead people and build a team. And in all honesty, it's one of those things that I'm constantly trying to get better at every day. I don't feel like I've mastered it by any means. um, so that's just something that I've learned and that I want to continue to learn more about and get sharper on every single day.
That's great. That's a common theme that I find talking to successful business owners is all about. It comes down to people and relationships and how we treat people. And I like how you I can tell you're a good leader because you said you hired some people and you didn't put them in forget how you worded it, but the best place for so
Hmm.
you didn't blame anyone else. You took ownership of that, and that's what good leaders do,
Hmm.
right? So
Hmm.
that's something I noticed during our conversation there. But
Yeah, well,
yeah,
thank you.
thanks for sharing that. Sorry, I cut you off there.
Oh, you're good. No, that's yeah, leadership is one of those things that it's something that you don't just get to a point where you're a good leader. Like, you constantly have to try and become better. It's not something you get to, it's something that you're just always growing at.
Mm. That's kind of like life works, right? We're just there's not really a finish line, I guess. When we pass on, I guess that's kind of when the but we're always growing, right? And always evolving and always growing and always learning. So um, yeah, that's
Absolutely.
good stuff. I'd like to now talk a little bit about real estate because real estate is definitely something I'm passionate about. I think we're kind of in different asset classes, but I'm still curious to learn more about that, what you kind of focus on there, and kind of what your goals are with that as well.
Sure. Yeah. Um, I honestly, like, I'm kind of I've tried a little bit of everything in real estate. So, I guess to give you a little bit of history. Like, originally, I the first thing I ever did was actually I bought a couple empty lots here in town, and I was my first deal I ever did was bought those and then built a spec house and sold it. It was kind of funny how it all worked out. Originally, my plan had been, when I bought them, I bought what two of them. One I was going to build a spec house on, and the other one I was going to build a house to live in on. Um, so yeah, I bought it, and then the following year ended up hiring a general contractor that came in and did everything from start to finish, and ended up turning around and selling it, making a decent profit on it. And um, so that was kind of my first thing that I did. That was definitely a that's one of those. It's a very long process compared to just buying and flipping something, or buying and holding. But ultimately, it turned out good. I was really, it's kind of crazy when I think back. At that age, I think I was only 21 at the time, and I really didn't know what I was doing. But but I knew with my construction experience that I had a good enough idea that I could figure it out and make it happen. Um, so that was kind of my first thing. After that, I ended up bought a triplex. Had some. part of it rented out long term, had one apartment rented out short term, which both of those turned out good. And then I ended up later I actually have a mix of long-term rentals and short-term rentals currently. So, in my opinion, I think both of them have their pros and cons. I think you can do very well with both of them. And it's one of the cool things about real estate is there's so many different ways that you can invest in real estate or do real estate. I mean, you've got, apartments, you've got short-term rentals, long-term rentals, you can do storage space, commercial. Like there's so many opportunities. You can even do, wholesale if you're just getting in and you don't really have the money to, invest and hold. That's the beauty about real estate. Um, but yeah, that kind of gives you maybe a little bit of an idea of where kind of what I've done so far in it. But yeah,
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Um, yeah, there's like you mentioned, there's so many different ways to go about it, and it's not a one size fits all approach. There's certain uh, different asset classes for different people, like and what fits their kind of risk tolerance and
yeah,
but it's yeah, like you said, it's you can make money so many different ways. There's people
yeah,
that just do lending, right? They don't even manage or operate; they just do private lending. So yeah, definitely
yeah.
a great way to invest, and there's a lot of tax advantages that come with that as well. Um, now that
There
we
is.
covered some business stuff, what would one piece of advice be for someone that's looking to get into entrepreneurship? I know it's probably not something, it's not for everyone, right? But for someone that is considering starting a business, kind of taking that leap, what is one piece of advice you could give them?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is, whether you're an entrepreneur or like an entrepreneur where you're, working in a business, the most important thing is being really clear on what you want. You have to be crystal clear. A lot of times, people aren't clear and definite on how they want their life to look or what they really want to accomplish um, with being an entrepreneur. So I think to me that's the most important thing is being really clear on what you want. Once you're super clear on what you want, sometimes if you're really honest with yourself and you really put some thought into it and figure out what you want your future to look like, um it just gives you a lot of clarity on what the right move is. And once you're clear on exactly what you want, then you can determine the price that you're going to have to pay to get there. And you need to determine, are you willing to pay the price to get what you want out of life? So that would be my number one advice would be make sure that you have a very clearly defined want that becomes a burning desire inside of you.
I love that you shared that. I've found that that is the biggest thing that's actually helped me to push through the difficult things is having that it kind of pulls me towards it, right? If I have this goal out there and I know exactly what I want, that kind of pulls me through
Yeah.
like all the hard stuff. And yeah, I'm just so glad you share that because we've been talking about that in our mastermind group here. What because some of us who were talking weren't quite sure like what exactly we want.
Mhm.
And it's so huge for me to get clear on what I want, and then that helps me push through stuff. And having a just something that I've been talking about recently is having a why that's bigger than my why not
Mhm.
has been big. Um, I'd like to ask you about getting clear on what you want. How do you do that? I know you said like it's something you have to really think about and be honest with yourself about, but are there certain questions you can ask yourself to get that, or how do you go about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for everyone, it's going to be a little bit different, probably depending on um, on your personality, the way that you kind of approach things. Some people are probably going to be a little more detail oriented when it comes to asking these questions versus some people you just get this big idea in their head and they're like, that's what I want. Um, but honestly, I don't really have any specific questions. Um, I don't know if are you married or
No, no,
dating or anything?
I'm
No.
dating, and
Yeah. But I know for myself, like, once I got married, it's one of those things that just, I started having conversations, with my wife about, well, what do we want our life to look like, as you know, 5 years from now or long term. Um, so I don't know. It's just, I think the main thing is have fun with it. Like, it shouldn't be one of those things that's like that if you have to force it to try and think about it, um, then you're probably going to get a little bit of a kind of a, how would I say, maybe not a true want. You're just trying to kind of force it. I think I think it'll come to you, and sometimes you need to trust you kind of get this feeling inside of you or this little thought inside of you. Like sometimes you have to trust that intuition, that that little voice inside your head that yeah, sometimes we feel or get. Um, yeah, I don't know.
yeah, I was curious on that because I had to try different things, and one other thing that was really important for me is so John Maxwell has a book called "Put Your Dream to the Test," and one of the questions he asks is, um, is it your dream or is it someone else's? And I've found myself where I saw like what someone else was doing, and I was like, well, that's what I want. But when I really got like honest with myself, I realized that like, I mean, I kind of wanted the things they had, but I didn't really want to do what they had to do to get there. So it really took a lot of just being
Mhm.
honest with myself, and um, yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for going into that. It was helpful for me, definitely. We didn't even we're getting close to our 30 minutes here. It's crazy to it didn't seem like 30 minutes, but we didn't even get to the fitness pillar, which maybe we can talk about that sometime later. But a question I'd like to ask you about. So I love reading, and I know my audience, some of my audience does as well. What are like three books that you could recommend for someone to read?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not a huge like I read quite a bit, but I'm not like I'm one of those people who doesn't like love reading. If
Mm,
I read, it's going to be something that I typically trying to learn from.
yeah.
Um, Honestly, a really good book that I'm reading right now, and I'm not 100% done with it yet, but it's been so powerful, is a book called Winning the War in Your Mind
Mm,
by Craig Rochelle. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he
yeah.
has some awesome leadership stuff.
Hmm.
And I just love the way he approaches it and the way that he brings, he shares like direct correlations with the Bible. That's been a really good book and a very powerful book so far. Um, Probably one of my top books when it comes to just business structure. Again, it probably was Traction. That was a pretty powerful book for me that I've read multiple times and um, worked on with implementing EOS into our company. And I don't think Traction's the only operating system for business because there's other ones out there. The main thing is that you choose one and stick with it.
Mm,
That is the most important thing. And another one that really made a big difference or was really interesting to me this year is a book called The Ego is the Enemy. It's a book written by Ryan Holiday. It's honestly one of those hard it was for me, it was a harder read, but I never really thought I had an ego problem, but after reading that book, I realized that I had more of an ego problem than what I thought. and it really stepped on my toes and really made an impact on my life and the way that I approach situations, and it was really good and powerful for me. But honestly, there's so many great books out there. Those are kind of just three that, um, off the top of my head, that I've really liked this year. So hopefully that's helpful to someone.
Yeah, that's great. And I can tell you, you don't just read the books; you read them and then you implement it. And I think that's really important because I've found myself just coasting through a book and reading it and putting aside and grabbing
Mhm.
another book. And I think it's really important to actually implement the things I learn in a book versus just reading them. So
Yeah, action is the difference maker. It's you can learn all this good stuff, but if you don't take action at the end of the day, you're not going to see any change or you're not going to get any results. So that's very true.
yeah, definitely. So final question. We're over now, but I want to ask you one more question. So I like to ask all my guests this question: What if you could go back? Or I guess talk to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell that person?
I think I would tell that person that, I'm trying to think how to word it. Stop worrying about what other people are thinking of you because they're not thinking about you anyhow.
That's so good, that's
Or
so
they don't care about you that much anyhow. So,
good.
that has been that something that I've had to overcome is just a fear of, worrying about what others think of me. Um, and if I could go back, that would probably be one thing that I would tell him to stop worrying about it.
Man, that's so good, and I think that's a great way to end it. Just wanna ask you before we close this, how can people find you? How can they, follow you and see what you're, doing?
Yeah, probably the best way is to connect on Facebook or Instagram. Um, shoot me a DM or shoot me a message if you have any questions. I'm always open to chat, and I love to engage with people. So, and my username is the Galen Yoder on Instagram and just Galen Yoder on Facebook. So yeah, that'd probably be the best way to follow.
Alright, definitely go follow him, and I'll link, um, his social links in the description. As always, well, first of all, thanks, Galen, for joining me. I really enjoyed our conversation. Appreciate you for all the insights.
Yeah, absolutely. I really enjoyed getting to know you, and hopefully we'll get to know each other better at some point in time down the road.
All right. As always, keep climbing and remember the future is bright.